What's that like?
What's going on, people? Hey, it's your old buddy John here from the What's That Like podcast. Here we are for episode 2 of our new season here in 2024, and I'm bringing you a friend of mine, a special guest that I've known for a long time, but I'm really going to get to know him a little bit better today, and you will along with this too. My friend is named Larry Smith. Larry, how you doing this fine February evening?
John, I am doing great. I'm really pleased to be here with you on the show. So I'm doing wonderfully.
Well, it's great to have you. And, a little bit of background. Larry and I work at the same place, right? Honestly, Larry, do you remember when we first met? I don't.
No, it's been double-digit years.
Yeah.
So it's been years. But I remember the first day.
No, it's been so long. We were both awards show hosts for a while,
Right.
And that was fun.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, yep, those are early on. We're always and when I got there, I remember seeing you, being well received by people. I knew John was somebody I had to get to know. You were smart as a whip, so still are. But you're somebody that I really recognized early on. So it's been great spending that time there with you.
Yeah, it's fun to know you. I'm proud to call you my friend. And so, Larry, I've asked you on the show because, the title of the show is What's That Like? And you produce movies, independent films, and we're going to get to that. But before we really do and figure out what it's like to produce films, let's set the stage a little bit, right?
Sure.
Let's build into this story as we're talking. Tell me about young Larry. Where'd you grow up? What were you like as a kid? Tell me about it.
Young Larry was somebody who aspired to be cool, he's still aspiring to it. So
Mission accomplished, though.
I don't know. Let's see. We'll see how it pans out. I was born in Little Rock, so I'm from the Mid South, as we would call it. Grew up there in Little Rock, and had an opportunity to go through public schools in Little Rock. Had a great time. I have an older sister, 2 years older than me, so she was my protector. Nobody really bothered me. She was the cool one. All her friends were in the cool crowd, so she was cool, and so nobody bothered me, being her younger brother. Had an opportunity to go to a pretty historic high school, Little Rock Central High School. Went there in the late 80s, early 90s. And if anybody remembers that school or is familiar with it or looks it up, you'll see the historical nature of it. It was the first integrated high school in America. So back in the mid to late 50s. Everybody remembers the crisis at Central High, when Eisenhower sent in the troops, the National Guard, at Little Rock Central High School to protect the Little Rock Nine, who first integrated that school, when the governor, wanted to refuse to have integration. So that's the high school that I went to, that my mother went to, a lot of my relatives went to, and I had a great time. Learned a lot. Had an opportunity to be a drum major. A lot of people don't know that I was a drum major. I was a drum major my junior year and my senior year of high school. Marched a band of over 400, a corps of over 600. So that was my opportunity to come out of my shell, have some leadership opportunities, see an artistic side of things. Being in the band, being a drum major, I was also a musician, so I played brass. I was a trumpet player, but played percussion as a drum major. In the off season, when I wasn't marching, towards my junior and senior year, I switched over to French horn. So I didn't switch over. I adopted French horn, played French horn. Was a guest member of the Pine Bluff Symphony Orchestra, actually. So I had an opportunity to play there.
Wow.
Yep. And so really ran with music in that regard. Ran with it, and then dropped it because when I went to college, and that's when I moved to St. Louis. I stopped band altogether, stopped music altogether.
Really?
Enjoyed listening to it, but stopped playing.
So going back to something you just said there, and it's almost another topic in and of itself. You talked about the high school that you went to, and your mother went there. You aren't old enough to have been there when when the integration happened. Was your mother?
My mother was just after that. So she's one of 5 children. Her older siblings were in high school at that time. They went to the Black High School in Little Rock. So they were part of that integration class, but they weren't, those members that integrated Central High. So my mother was part of the classes that, came after the integration, but they weren't. But one of my strong memories when I was in kindergarten, which still was after the time of integration, but I used to go to a lady's house that was catty corner from my kindergarten. I'd go there after school. My parents knew her, my grandparents knew her. And I remember she used to make pound cakes. She used to make different desserts, and I'd get to taste some of the desserts. And that was Daisy Bates. So she was very integral in the integration effort in Little Rock, and in the education effort throughout Little Rock, throughout her career. But I knew her as Mrs. Bates across the street, who let me stop by and taste pound cakes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that story. Number one, I mean, people of our age, and certainly somebody like me grew up in a small town in Illinois. That wasn't something that happened. So that parts of the story and American history, we can still be educated by all that. And I appreciate you actually taking a little bit of time to tell us about that. So, your mom's a American hero in that regard, in terms and your aunts and uncles that came before her. That's very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that.
You're very welcome. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you said you went to college, you gave up music, and you came to St. Louis. Where'd you go school here?
Went to Washington University here in St. Louis. So I remember going through that window. I guess it was my late junior year, early senior year, when I was looking at different university options, near and far. And Washington University being one of the nearer ones.
Mm-hmm.
That was an appeal. It was you could get here 6 hours by car. It was an hour flight. I was looking at other places on the East Coast, Upper East, Southeast, but it was close. So close enough that my family felt comfortable they can get to me, but far enough that they couldn't surprise me on campus. Time. So that was great. A different change of pace, a little bit larger city than Little Rock. And a different mix of people. So being centrally located in the country, influences from all around the country. So I had a chance to visit. I think I visited maybe 3 times on college visits. Applied early decision. Got in early. Got in I think around December or so, and came back to visit again. But I really enjoyed the campus, and so made that move here. And that's where I met a lot of my great friends that I still have to this day. My best friend Aaron Greer. He was one of my friends that I met in freshman year of university. And we would go on to partner up and work together in this film endeavor. So we're going to get to him in a little bit. But, early on, he did a lot of work in stage play and small screens and film productions, whatnot. And we were roommates. So I had an opportunity to join him in those projects and really solidify my interest in that portion of the arts. So really storytelling, crafting a story, being able to convey that to people, having fun with it as well. So all of that, I got a lot of that from him. He really helped me to flourish that interest. And so it just went forward from there.
Yeah. Tell me about your family.
Older sister, 2 years older. So Kim, she, growing up in Little Rock, we actually had some zoning. All cities have had them, especially when we were coming up in our generation. So we went to school together through elementary school, through 1 year of junior high school. Their junior high school, 7, 8, 9. And then high school was 10th, 11th, 12th. So 1 year together in junior high school, and then separate after that. And then high school, we didn't go to high school together.
Really?
So kind of after the 7th grade, we went to different schools. I was on my own at that point. I had to get by on my charm and my good looks, or running from people. So you take your pick. But yeah, that's also when I got a chance to flourish. And I came out from under her shadow and went on to do some good things, at least, if not great things. My mom was from Little Rock. My father was from North Little Rock. So they're separated by the river, the Arkansas River, but very close together. So came from 2 large families. My mother's family, she was amongst 5 siblings. She was one of 5 children, so I had 4 siblings. My father's family, his father was my grandfather Joseph, and his grandfather's brother John, my great uncle John. They were contractors. They were bricklayers. They were one of the first Black men in the city, if not the state, to have their own contracting company. They built their house together, so they lived together. They had 13 children between the two of them, and all those children grew up. So it was a large, large family. I had trouble distinguishing who were my father's siblings from, my uncles, his cousins and those siblings. So they were all my aunts and uncles
Right.
growing up. And they had, lots of children, lots of grandchildren, my generation in that family. So I have a ton of cousins that are over there, and extended family that's just tremendous on that side.
Well, this is your background, right? And if I were to think of words, how I would describe you, I actually wrote this stuff down, really, respected, leader, genuine, impressive, personable, as you can see, well dressed. And one more word I would use is passion, right? Ever since I've known you, all those things really exemplify who you are as a person. And I think about that passion part. You really kind of just you get into it, you believe it, you go with it. And I'm thinking, is passion, you mentioned your friend Aaron, is passion really what brought you? You mentioned that's what got you into kind of this part of the arts. Tell us how this movie producing journey started for you and that passion.
Absolutely. I would say passion is a driver. That propensity, my propensity to see what a story can do for people. Because people are moved by different things, either in the arts or in other areas as well. Mine happens to be the arts. But I see that power of storytelling. I see that power of being able to craft a strong story, being able to get that in front of people, being able to tell what happened, being able to tell how characters are impacted, the interaction between folks. So that is something that I really enjoyed doing. I've had an opportunity to see those stories come to fruition and help develop those stories with different partners, work with Aaron in particular, around developing the story, looking at what can become of a short tale and how that can grow into something that can really move people. So I really enjoy that.
How did it start? You just don't become a movie producer one day. So take me from the genesis of Aaron's got an idea. Do you just say, hey, I want in? Or was this something you wanted in from the start and said, the next time you have something, call me because I want in? How did you get going in this?
I would say, actually it's a little bit more ingrained or a little bit more connected. So we've known each other since the early '90s, and I've always talked off and on about different stories, different projects. He is the one who really crafts the stories, or he's the genesis for a lot of stories, writing on his own or working with other partners, stage partners, screen partners around writing. But we always have dialogue back and forth around different story ideas, around different concepts. And so that's where it comes from. We spend a lot of time together and we just go through different concepts. When he's had these stories that have come to fruition, and it's not necessarily a matter of me expressing my interest and wanting to be involved, but him always knowing I'm always interested and always want to be involved. So as we're interacting, those will come up if they're on the landscape. The first film that we worked on together was Service to Man. That came out, goodness, I think in 2016 or 2017. But that was a strong story. Actually, was the true life story of one of his stage partners, Seth Panich. So it's the story of his father, who was a student at McCary Medical College, which is a historically Black medical college. But that story was coming to fruition as it was coming on the landscape. Aaron and I were connecting off and on, and that was down the road. So I said, "Hey, tell me more about it. Let's talk about it." So that was an opportunity to get involved around that story. A lot of my work is around bringing it to fruition. So from a financial perspective, supporting it, getting off the ground, but also talking through concepts, talking through, here's the storyline, here are the characters. But what if? How do they intersect at this point? If that's their background, what's that trigger point of their intersection? What's their engagement? What are those kind of things? And just talking back and forth. How does the story feel? Where is it going? How is it winding? What if? How could it be? So those types of questions.
Let's back up on Service to Man a little bit, because you gave a real quick synopsis of what it's about. But, and I think this is where your background and everything is coming into fruition, where what I'm picking up on, number one, you're not just a passive investor in a project and you're getting your name on a title. You're really involved in the story as it comes. Now, this is a true story that Service to Man was, but give us the background of that story, and then what pulled you in that wanted you to make this movie.
Gotcha. So the background of it takes place in I got to get the timing exactly right. It takes place in the 50s. So it's a story, actually late 50s, early 60s. So it's a story about the Freedom Riders, or it's about the time of the Freedom Riders as they would travel to the South to support racial equality efforts. So as that's going on, it's a story specifically of a Jewish young man who doesn't have many options of going to different medical schools. He wants to go to medical school, but doesn't have, top-notch grades, doesn't have the options to go to a place of his choosing. So one university that will accept him, one college that will accept him is Meharry Medical College. So he goes there. It's historically Black medical college. The other main character is from a prominent family. His father is a surgeon, respected in the medical field. He has his choice. The other character has his choice of going to different places, but his family, his father says, "You're going to go to Meharry. You're going to go where I support."
Mm-hmm.
So he is there with other Black students pursuing his medical degree in the South, where racial tension is ripe. So it's the contrast of these two individuals: Black young man from the South during that time, and a white Jewish man from New York coming down to be a student as well. So you see, that degree or lack of acceptance that the characters feel. It's the reverse of a Black individual going into an environment that's majority white, and feeling the rejection, feeling being pushed away, feeling the lack of acceptance. So it's the reverse of that. But it's the story of those two characters developing a kinship, being competitive. They're both competing for top grades. They're competing for that type of accolade, that type of recognition, and they neither of them get an easy pass from the professor or from the head of the department. Professor being Lamond Rucker, the head of the department being who's our leader? Keith David.
Keith David, yeah.
Sometimes I miss his name, but Keith David is our lead in the movie, our top name celebrity star in the movie.
Right.
So if anybody doesn't recognize his name, just look up Keith David. You'll see him. He's been in over 200 films, award winner. He played the father of Mary, and There's Something About Mary.
Right.
He did the voiceovers for the Air Force commercials. You recognize his voice there. So he's been all around.
Yeah, not to be confused with David Keith, who's an entirely different actor. Yeah,
totally.
I used to get confused all the time.
Did I get the names of the right?
Yeah. So you come into this. It's a great story. It's in your lane. You're coming to it to help putting some of the finance and making it all happen. I'm assuming you're putting money behind this as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And
supporting.
I'm sorry.
So supporting in that regard.
Okay. Where I'm going with this question is, Larry, and I think this is where the passion part of the question comes in, is you could have invested in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and had probably a great return over years, right? But this is something where you're putting your money where your heart is, right?
Right.
And
right.
I'm you don't have to tell me. It doesn't really matter. You got a return on that, both probably financially and here, right in your heart, correct?
Well, I'll talk about the return to my heart. I'll discuss that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got the return to my heart. I mean, I saw from early on the seed of a story and coming. I saw that was it's going to be a great story. Those characters, the story itself being a true to life story, and what it entailed and the timing that it actually took place. I won't give away the ending of the movie.
No.
People are still going to see it. But that was a great story to be able to put in front of people, um, and let people see that character development, be reminded of what was happening at that particular time. Um, it's just a great history lesson. So I couldn't help but, help to bring that to fruition, help to put that, out there for people to see, um, and pave the way for more stories to be told as well. That film went on to win some top awards. So, top film award at the American Black Film Festival, top award at the International Black Film Festival, won other major awards for the film and for the crew as well. So highly regarded film with a great cast, great story. But it started with some individuals who had a story to tell. It's a great story, one that I hadn't seen before, and you can't let that languish because there might be a small hurdle to getting it to the screen.
Right.
Smooth away.
I was going to ask it later, but if I'm listening to this right now, I'm going, where can I watch it?
Right. You can stream it on most major platforms. It is. I don't know if I can name different platforms, but you can stream it on most major platforms. Actually, just look it up, Service Demand.
Yeah.
It's out. One place I think you won't find is Netflix. Their model's a little different, so that never came to fruition. But it is available on a host of other platforms, and you can
buy or rent it. Maybe it's free.
You can buy and rent it, exactly, and you might be able to find it on DVD. I did buy it on DVD originally in Walmart, so but it might be vintage now.
Yeah. Well, that's really the heart of what I wanted to get to is, you're a movie producer, but you're doing it, I'll say it again, from the heart, right? The passion that's bringing that through. It's a passion project for you that's really brought you into this business with people that you care about. And that's why you do it, right?
Right.
So, this movie comes out, it wins awards, you're doing fine, your friends are happy. I mean, before that's done, you see it, it's in the can, as you might say. Before anyone in the public has seen it, how vulnerable are you, like, feeling, just going, well, now we've done our job, now it becomes the world's? What is that time before feel like, and then what does it feel like when those accolades start rolling in?
Right. I'll tell you, my most nervous point, or the what surrounded my high nervous level, was the emotion that would come through in the movie. So you can see a script beforehand. You can talk through the movie. I talked through the movie with Aaron, talked through the story with Aaron. Talked to different points, saw different versions of it, and when I watched that final print, and I laughed at certain points, like I've never seen the scene before. I'm sitting there, and coming through, and I'm like, oh, that really worked out well. Oh wow, the interchange with with the students and the doctor in the town, where they leave university and they're out there working in the hospital, seeing the citizens as part of their training. Oh, those lines came through well. Oh, that was funny. Oh, that I can see the chemistry between them. Oh, now it's coming through.
Mm-hmm.
So those parts that reassured for me. Oh, this not only is the story solid, but the editing, the crafting of the story, the development of the characters, how they were introduced and juxtaposed in the beginning, and then the tension mounted, and the tension redirected, and the resolution came. All those elements, I was like, okay, whoever sees this is going to appreciate it. It's just going to be a matter of how many people see it. And I was particularly thrilled when Aaron shared with me the distribution deal on it. Byron Allen's studio, distribution company, got on board and distributed the film. So at that point, Byron Allen wasn't tremendously well known. People remembered him from things like Real People and his own show. And he was still, his media was still rising.
And now he wants to buy Paramount.
Now he wants to buy the Weather Channel. He may bid for other networks. He's a billionaire. He is, his star is way up there. So, we had some great fortune in that regard to help get that story further out.
Well, it's a tremendous story. It's been a while since I've seen it, and now I want to see it again. So I'll probably go in the house this week, and my wife and I will pick it up and watch it.
Popcorn.
Yeah. About 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, you came by my office and said, "Hey, I'm screening my next movie at whatever, 11 o'clock, come over.
Yeah.
And I was maybe one of about, I don't know, 10 people you previewed this thing. And I only got to watch the first half of it.
Right.
And this movie is called The Coming, which is a complete left turn from what Service to Man was. I'll let you tell people what it's about and what and the feeling, and well, I'll just say it. It's a thriller. Right?
It is a thriller.
It's some point a little supernatural. Take it away from here, Larry. I was scared.
Yeah, it's a supernatural psychological thriller with a couple of twists and 3 turns. Yeah, it's a great film. It's a departure from earlier stories. In my opinion, well done. I mean, it was I had the twist that came at the end. I didn't see it coming. I had to suspend a little bit of my preconceived belief and get twisted. That's a film where the main character, he's a physician. He has he's transferred from another facility, from another hospital to a new hospital, and he's brought there to focus on a particular patient.
A mental hospital.
A mental hospital, exactly. And this is set in, I believe it's set in it's kind of indeterminate as far as the time setting, but it feels anywhere from today to 20 years, 30 years ago. It's indeterminate in that regard. But he's set there to study a patient who has a particular psychosis, mental psychosis, and it's about a personality trait that this patient. So he goes, he sees this, he's working to understand it, working to understand and diagnose it, and identify it. His intentions are being questioned. Is he self-serving? Is he really working on behalf of the patient? Is he working on behalf of understanding what that condition is, or is he pursuing self-promotion? So that's part of the story. Also, how close is he to that story? Does he have any background? Does he have any connection to that condition? Any connection to knowledge on that condition? So that's another twist story. Great cast. It was filmed in Chicago. I believe. I believe in 22. It was filmed in Chicago. And so that was. It's got a couple stories. One is the physician in that situation. Another story around him and the rest of the staff and the leadership at that hospital, and some side stories around the patients that are there. So that's a third element that's there. There's a little bit of humor. I'd say it's about 15% humor, about 85%, leave a light on.
Yeah.
So that's right.
So when I only got to watch maybe the first 2/3. I haven't seen the ending yet.
Oh, you didn't see the twist?
No. So I haven't seen it personally. Like I said, I had to leave. I had a meeting to go to,
Right.
But let me back you up. You told us what it's about, and it's a complete left turn, like we said, from Service to Man. Put your producer hat back on. The first one was a true story of, and this one is not. How do these stories come to you in your in? Do you have a production company, or you just kind of take these as individuals?
Right. Aaron actually has production companies, Getting Grown Productions, which is actually the name of his first major film that came out back in, goodness, I can't remember the year that came out. It's probably early 2000s. It was filmed exactly the same time as Mr. 3000 with Bernie Mac. So if you look up Getting Grown, you look up Mr. 3000 with Bernie Mac. They were both filmed in town at the same time in Milwaukee. So Getting Grown is his production studio, and he writes, and his writing partner, Seth Panich, who I mentioned earlier. They both became affiliated at the University of Alabama. So at that time, Seth was leading the film department. Aaron was a faculty member of the film department. So that's when they were together doing stage work, doing film work, writing in that regard, writing and directing, producing through the university. When Aaron left University of Alabama, he then went in Philadelphia. What's the university? I can't believe I'm forgetting. Where'd he go? Temple. Went to Temple University, and was a member of the film department there. So a leader within the film department there. And actually, I got a chance to visit him while we were there, in addition to talking back and forth over time, but visiting him during casting for one of his stage plays, just exploring stories, exploring scripts in that regard. But that's the genesis of it. So that's how the writing has evolved. He and Seth stayed in touch and stayed partners over that course of time after he left University of Alabama, and so that's how they were able to craft additional stories. Aaron and I always were connected around stories that they were working on, also stories that Aaron's gotten up. He's got one great story in the hopper that we've been discussing for years, for maybe 5 or 6 years at this point. And so as he moves into more of his own producing through his company, that's one of the first stories. This next one, one of the first stories that's going to come out. I'm really excited about it. But yeah, he's doing most of the writing, most of that. I'm there for the ride, there for support, and to give perspective uh, back and forth with.
Seth is the star uh,
Of the coming.
The Coming, right?
Exactly.
And when will we see The Coming?
It's already gone through post production. It's already been cut. Now the distribution, their distribution work is starting. Aaron brought on, or they brought on, a guy by the name of Joel Zwick to support that type of work. So he's a consulting producer. Don't know how many people know his name off the bat, but if you've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding, he directed that film. He's directed a host of other films. He also I think he did, full seasons of Full House as a director. If you remember that series from way back.
How can we not remember? And you said it, and I'm going, I don't know if I know that name, but it kind of sounds familiar. And when you said Full House, I could see it in the font on the opening of the show.
Big kind of block letters.
Yeah.
So Wick was, I think, for the series, he was the director. Did early things, Ernest Shirley, some other things as well before that, then started his career. So he is consulting producer to lend support, lend some muscle behind distribution. So it's on its way to distribution. We should see it pretty soon.
Good.
Coming. So keep your eyes on.
I need the ending, Larry. You have to slip me a DVD or something.
You know what? I will get that big theater that we were in, and get a private showing.
We'll do it again. That's right. So as we kind of wrap towards the end of this thing, right? You kind of told us how you got in, really what you do, what your role in this whole thing is, why you do it is, was as important to me as anything that you're already doing. I'm curious on what you've learned. What you've been doing this for a while now. What would you do differently, if anything? Do you wish you'd have been involved sooner? And I'll stop there. Maybe I've got more questions, so I'll let you answer that one.
Gotcha. No, that's good. That's good. I will say at the heart of it, it's a personal affair. It's something that is very close to my heart. Like I said, Aaron and I have been best friends, great friends for decades, actually, at this point. College roommates, post-college roommates. I always knew about his projects, his passion for writing and bringing those stories forward. And that was my commitment. I remember we talked earlier, we're in our 20s, early 20s, said, hey, this is something that is going to last. You're going to do it, as your mainstay. That was his, that's his degree, that's his path career-wise. I said, I'm going to be there with you. I got to figure out my life as well, but I'm going to be there with you. So, that was my commitment. And part of my drive was, okay, well, I'm going to be there to support. And I hope that I'll be able to support financially too. So let me get a good job and be sturdy in that regard so I can come back. And that's what's been fulfilling to me in part, is that I set that aside. I set that commitment, that money, that time, I set that aside. And Aaron knows, okay, when the next project is ready, let's huddle up again. Let's talk through it. Let's make it happen. And we're already talking about the next project. That's going to be a bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
We're already ready for that. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it when he is. He's ready for it when I am. So we're making our way down that path. And he's got a phenomenal mind for stories, for character development, and for that intertwining. I'll tell you, I went to Chicago for the screening of The Coming there that he hosted. And my daughter, our daughter, my wife and I's daughter, Layla, she's 19 now. I think it was last summer. So she had just turned 19. It was her first time driving a long distance. She drove me all the way to Chicago. I said, let's drive together. She started driving the whole way. So St. Louis to Chicago. We stayed in town, went to the screening. She got a chance to see it up close, meet the cast. She had known about the story, that she got to see that story unfold on screen. And the next morning, she and I and Aaron and his dad, James Greer, we went out to breakfast. And she got a chance to just talk to Aaron one on one about the film and different things and about the story development. So for her to hear that, it's just tremendous. Like she'll bear with me while I, talk about a story and get excited about it. Look at me with one eye while she wants to go someplace. But to sit there and talk to him about a film that she saw on the screen, met those casts and crew and everything, that's fulfilling. So I know that there are a lot of folks out there, have that desire, are drawn in by a story and the things that are behind it and how they themselves can be behind the story. So that's motivating. So I got to keep doing it.
Did you give her the bug? Does she have the bug now?
She does have the bug. She's got a strong interest in photography. She signed up her freshman year at university. She's at University of Memphis. She signed up for a film class. So I was like, oh, awesome. And I said, you got to call Uncle Aaron. You got to let him know you're in the film class. And she was like, all right, I will. But she's seen that come to fruition. So she was all on board. She then discovered that she probably isn't tapped to actually do film. So she has pivoted a little bit into the other arts, more visual arts, drawing and whatnot. But she has that strong interest. And she enjoys movies. She enjoys different types of movies, different types of stories, the things that go into a quality story. No shade on some of the movies that are out there now as blockbusters, but the stories that really have some substance, really have some development, really make you think twice, make you think three times, and give you a kinship with characters. So she does creative writing. She pulls that from storytelling. I wouldn't be surprised if one day she's writing a screenplay, writing a script. I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't have the first clue how to get into the movie business. I didn't have the first clue how to get into the podcast business until I just decided I've got a couple of microphones and a computer. I'll figure it out. I can publish a podcast on my own. I can upload it to YouTube. That's where my knowledge stops. If I'm listening, let's just stop there. I'm not getting into the movie business. Right?
No, you say something interesting. You say that's where your knowledge stops, but actually it doesn't.
Well, this is where my question's going, Larry.
Yeah.
I know where I'm at in life, but if I'm listening to this, if I even clicked on it because the title of, that how did you get into the movie business? What's it like being a movie producer? I'm probably interested in what's the path, if there's a path. And is it easier today, harder today than it was 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago? Like, the movie business might as well have been the moon when I was a kid. Right. And and we're not that different in age. It probably seemed that way to you too. So is there a path? What's that path look like?
Absolutely. It's easier today than it was 10 years ago and easier than 20 years ago. What drives it is the level of outlets, the number of outlets. So it's a lot easier today. You've seen commercials from one of the famous phone makers. I'll just say that. And they tout that you can make a movie with their phone. You've seen the commercials where
right.
They're moving their phone and getting all the footage. And then I think they put out the movies that have been made on that particular phone. And other ones, other brands have done that as well. So the degree of the opportunities for outlets are, volumes greater than they were in the past. And so, production is really being there to support, bringing a film to fruition. The hard part is writing. The hard part is directing. Those are the hard parts because that's hands-on all the way through. That's your full-time job, or it feels like a full-time job. Production for me is, I'm not a traditional producer. There are others who are producing this full-time job and locked in and really into it day in and day out. I'm kind of a consulting producer / executive producer. I've been executive on one associate and consultant on another. So, I'm there for support. But if you've got access to someone who is directing, who's writing, who is active in that regard, and the support is needed, that's where the production support comes from. So it's me having a friend who's in it directly. I've got that connection to him where we can talk through stories, we can talk through character development, we can talk through what not, what we don't want to do. This happens in these movies. They always bend it that way. We shouldn't bend it that way. We should have the characters have a different intersection. We should consider, different elements if we're going to round out a character with musical skill. We're going to round out a family story. I'm giving a little bit away about the next story that's coming up, but how we're going to craft those characters, how we're going to have them overlap, what the audience is going to feel and see and hear, and when you want them to feel and see and hear it. Those are the conversations that we have. And then I'm there to also support financially as well and just pave that way for that film to move forward and get onto the landscape. So, anybody wants to get into that, you find someone you believe in, who's crafting great stories, who has mindset maybe similar to yours, or if you're lucky, mindset that might be a little different. And so you can, conflict is good when you're being creative. If everybody agrees on a story, you better hope millions of other people agree as well. But if
Right.
you have conflict, you can bring different perspectives. You can shoot holes in stories. You can really be critical, and then have a critical success is what we're gonna do.
It probably helps for you to stop. I'm going to make it a statement here. Stop watching the blockbusters and go find some story driven character films, right?
Oh yes, and that's so fulfilling. It's nice to sit with the popcorn and zone in and out of a movie and still get the gist of it because it's
Right.
it's written as a blockbuster to appeal to as many people as possible. But when you see a story that is really in depth, has some layers, reminds you of yourself or your experiences or something that you can really discuss with people afterwards, that is so fulfilling, and that's what we shoot to deliver.
Well, and it's one thing, like I think I got to the heart of this earlier. You're not doing it for the money. If the
Right.
money comes, great, but you're doing it because essentially this is something that you bring from inside, from your head, from your heart, and you're trying to bring things to the world, which you saw it firsthand with your daughter, and it's got to be the greatest feeling in the world.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So I guess when I asked about people that want to get into the business, if there's anything you want to do, you better have some heart in it and really, put that thing out there. Right. So,
Right, right.
Larry, you're a great guy.
Thank you.
As I stated earlier, the words I would use to describe you, as a leader, genuine, driven, all those things, passionate. Um, I hate to be so cliche with this, but if there's somebody out there listening and say, and you want to basically say they want to start a podcast, get into the movies, buy property, change a career, what's some real life advice you would give them?
I would say pursue a strong understanding of it. Pursue, know the risks. Everybody, I think, gravitates towards the rewards of something initially. In my case, and what I would propose to others, know the risks, be educated about it, work with people that you can develop and foster some trust with, because you're going to want to ask a lot of questions. You're going to want to be a strong contributing member to that endeavor, that project. So have people that you can ask questions of, you can trust a challenge, um, and then commit. Make it a priority. Commit to it. Commit to the time that it takes to do it. Anything worth doing well is, I forget the exact same. Anything worth doing is worth doing well. But anything you do well is going to take time. So
Mhm.
I'm committed to it for the long haul. So, be committed to whatever that endeavor is. That commitment then draws other people to you. People want to invest their time in others that they know are committed. They know are going to, they're going to dig in and they're going to do it. So they're going to take that advice that somebody's going to give them, and they're going to really put it to great use. So be committed and let that show, and you will draw people to you that want to support you, want to help. That's why I was drawn to Aaron and his projects. Um, Time has no bounds when we're working together.
Larry, let me thank you for coming on my show. I haven't had this show on for 4 years. I've been missing it. I was committed to bringing it back at some point, and I wanted to do it right, and I wanted to do it in the times of the day visually, like we're doing this for YouTube. We were talking 4 or 5 hours ago at the office, and we were talking with some other friends really about what we were doing tonight, and I told you in the moment, I said that, you and I have known each other a while, but I'm going to know you twice as good by the end of our conversation today, because we got real and real deep. And I can't thank you enough for coming on to the What's That Like podcast and telling us all what it's like. You got me like tearing up here in your inspirational way. I mean, that's why I love you, man. You're a great guy. I'm proud to be your friend and proud to know you. And thank you so much for doing this for me.
John, I can't thank you enough either. I'm so proud that you asked me to join. Consider my little story worth hearing, worth sharing with others. So thank you very much for allowing me to come on your show. And you've got another subscriber.
That's right. Spread the word.
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Love you. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Larry. And thank you all for watching and listening. I want to appreciate the time you spent and hope you got to know something about my friend, Larry Smith. My name's John. That was Larry. Peace out.